We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com. Welcome to AVRant. I'm Tom Andry, and I'm here with
Rob H.
This is a lot of questions in there from Fred, so everybody buckle up.
Yep.
A while back, Fred asked for room layout advice. His room has a large fireplace that he was intending to be the focus of the room, with the seating area around it, forcing him to squish his own home theater setup over to one side. Turns out they don't use the fireplace.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, like for real.
Best laid plans.
Yeah. Fireplaces. So now he has approval to rotate his home theater setup so that it faces the fireplace. And before we worry about the TV mounted too high, they're actually going to remove the fireplace and the stone around it and everything else entirely. The bookshelves on either side are staying, though. The room is now definitely going to be all about theater. Dracula curtains, as I apparently called them. I don't remember. My brain is going. An electric roll-down screen in between the bookcases. Ceiling speakers for Atmos. The whole works. All right.
Sounds nice. And it's a nice-sized room once it's dedicated to being a theater, so that's going to be cool.
Yeah, so he's got a door in the back, folding doors to the right. The fireplace will be on the... What was the fireplace will be on the left. No,
well,
that's the old one.
That's the way things were laid out before.
Okay.
Now
he's going to turn it.
The screen is going to be where the fireplace is. The folding doors are going to be at the back.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. So it just so happens that his Denon AVR X2000 died on him. He wants to upgrade to Atmos anyways, but would it make sense to have his X2000 repaired and then sell it, or should he just get rid of it? If he gets rid of it, what's the responsible way to recycle it? Every town has electronics recycling drop-off points. You'll have to look to see what yours is. I know that that's the case here. You just look it up on the website and say you have electronics to recycle.
Yeah, where I am, it's like literally the same place we take our cans. So
yeah,
I don't know if that's the case where you live.
Yeah, you'll have to see.
Yeah.
I mean, X2000, that's like how many years old now? 4? Is it?
Well, it should be the same
3.
year as when your 4000 came out. So
yeah, I feel like that's like 4 years old. But I don't necessarily think. I mean, I think that the cost to repair it is going to be more than you'll probably. I don't know what died means. I mean, what does died mean? Usually, this is what I would do. I would figure out if it had fuses and where the fuses are, and check them to see if they're busted. If they are, then replace them, and then you have a functional receiver you can sell. If you can't or they aren't, then I would just recycle it, because it's probably
because most repair places charge you a fee just to look at it.
Yeah, it's gonna be $50 to look at the thing.
So.
Right, $50 to look at it, and you're not gonna get out of that for less than $100. And an X2000, I mean, what are you gonna get for that? I would be happy if I got $50 for it, but I sell things for cheap.
I mean, you could also just sell it for parts on eBay, because sometimes people buy it. You know, like you'll get something at least.
This is what I would do. I would put it up on. If you can't fix it yourself, I would just put it up $50 or best offer, Craigslist, eBay, whatever, and see what comes in.
You know, obviously list non-functional, sold as is.
As is.
There you go.
Non-functional.
Yeah.
All right, he's done experiments and determined that the 48-degree field of view is what he'd like to go for. However, the width between the bookshelves is 97 inches. So we've always recommended tab tension screens, but those are at quite a bit of width, which is true. So he'd be limited to a 92-inch screen. Or if he does go non-tensioned, he could fit a 100-inch screen. Ideally, he'd like to sit about a third of the room's 20-foot length from the back wall. So another option would be to mount the screen in front of the bookshelves rather than in between them. That would likely mean the screen needs to be acoustically transparent, though. So what do we think he should do? I see no reason why it has to be acoustically transparent.
Well,
I mean, that's a big bookshelf, dude. I mean, it's a big bookshelf, right? I mean, it's just going to be way on the outsides. Or you can have just your speakers lower, right? Have them underneath all the way across and kind of angled up.
I mean, if he goes large enough to get the field of view that he wants, it's going to be a pretty big screen.
How big?
I'm thinking he's going to be sitting roughly 6 to 7 feet from the back wall, because he says he wants to be about a third of the way into the room. And then I'm figuring if you do have this larger screen that's going to be in front of the bookshelves, then there's going to be at least 2 feet from the screen to the front wall to allow for the speakers to go behind their 2 or 3 feet.
Yeah.
So at that point, he's got about a 12-foot viewing distance. And from 12 feet to get the size of screen, or the field of view that he wants, 48 degrees field of view, he'd need a 150-inch diagonal screen.
Okay.
The width of the case for that is 153 inches if you go with the tab tension. And if you're going to go acoustically transparent, then I definitely recommend going tab tension.
Yeah.
Because that's quite important to maintain the spacing in the little holes where the sound comes through. If you were to shrink that to an 11-foot viewing distance, which would be entirely reasonable, because that's maybe moving your seat half a foot farther from the back wall and the screen half a foot away from the front wall. So it'd be easy to get yourself to an 11-foot distance from eyes to screen. Then you go with a 135-inch screen size. The case for that would be 140 inches wide. So either way, it would have to be in front of the bookcases. Now, I mean, a 150-inch screen, if you end up going with that, is tall enough that you can't stick all the speakers below the screen.
Yeah.
And if you put them on the sides, they'd be pretty close to the side. Well, I mean, there's a pretty good, strong argument for putting the center speaker at a minimum behind the screen.
Right.
And if you're going to go this big anyway...
He's only got 2 seats in his room to begin with, right?
Well, he's going with like a couch, as far as I know.
But I'm saying, it's basically, it's not going to be
like
multiple
3
rows
seats,
of seats. Yeah, it's not going to be multiple rows of seats.
No, I haven't heard anything like that in the plan, so...
So, I mean, I still think you could go to the sides. I mean, yeah, they'll be close to the side walls. So are mine in this room right here. And a lot of people do that. The center, you go underneath and angle it up. I don't see any problem with that.
Well, either way, I'm still thinking that the plan of attack here is put the screen in front of the bookcases.
Oh yeah, I think trying to fit it in that space is
yeah,
a fool's errand.
to fit it in between the bookcases and having to limit yourselves to 100 inches maximum. Now you've got to sit 7 feet away.
Yeah, to get your field of view that you want. Yeah, I totally agree. You have to bring it out in front, and bringing it as close as you want to or you need to, in order to make sure you've got your field of view that you want. Now, this does put your speakers sort of in the room. Like, I'm wondering if he's wanting to put them on the bookshelf.
Well, no, because he's got the EMP Tek Towers.
So he's going to already have them in the room anyway. So you might as well. I mean, he might want to put them in the corners to begin with, just to keep them out of the way.
Out of the way of the bookcases.
Yeah, exactly. He might not want them to be just shadowing this thing. Yeah, that's what I would do.
Okay, so we're saying acoustically transparent, optional. I mean, if he wants to do it, I'm not going to tell him not to.
So yeah, if you can, why not? I suppose, but it's going to quadruple the cost of that screen.
Yeah, but I think we're in agreement. Go for the larger size. I'm saying 135 inches would be really nice because that's easier to light up, especially if you want to start doing HDR from a projector. Right. Lighting up a 150-inch diagonal screen, trying to get to 100 nits, which is the HDR standard for projectors. That's a challenge. Like the Epson 5040 UB can barely do it at 135, can't do it at 150. So that's something to consider. I would go probably for 135, maybe sit 11 feet from that, eyes to screen. And then acoustically transparent or not, up to you. Yeah.
So once the screen and seating are nailed down, would it make more sense to stick to 5.2.4 in his room, or should he go for 7.2.4? Dude, this is a 20-foot deep, and you're going to be sitting somewhere between 11 and 12 feet away. There's no reason you can't do 7.2.4.
I would go for it.
There's no reason you can't go for it. I'd be honest with you. I have just found so little benefit of having 2 speakers behind me. That it's just me that's saying that, and maybe I'm not experiencing it the way I'm supposed to, or I just haven't had the right
or,
thing.
You haven't done object-based audio yet, so there could be
I haven't.
Bit more. Although it's still, I will confirm, it's rare, the rare occasion that something actually, an object moves around behind you.
Occasionally, it does have that effect. I think that you get 90% of that experience by just your surround speakers anyways, because of the phase and how they move everything out. Okay, I'm going to say this. I'm going to say start with 5.2.4 and experiment with 7.2.4 by borrowing some speakers or do something like that. Experiment with it after you've got this thing all set up. If you're doing wiring, then wire for 7.2.4.
Yeah, wire for it for 7 for sure.
But if you're not doing wiring, if you're that's something you could do later or whatever, then just experiment with it, because I'm wondering if it's something that you're really going to find that is enough of a benefit.
Yeah, I mean, I would say you're going to have the space behind your seats where it makes sense. Like, there's some setups where I'm saying don't do 7 because you don't have enough space behind your seats, but in your case, you do.
Right.
So there's an argument for that. You're using the EMP Tek speakers, so adding an extra pair of bookshelf speakers behind you isn't a gigantic cost, at least. You know, it's pretty reasonable. For certain, if you're pre-wiring it all, going through your new ceiling that I think he said he was putting in, absolutely wire for it, and then, yeah, you can choose.
So he says he regularly makes use of Zone 2. However, fewer pieces of equipment would be a plus. So he's hesitant about adding any external amps. The Denon AVR X6300H has 11 built-in amps, so he can use that to power his 5.2.4 in his theater and Zone 2 all from a single piece of equipment. So could he do that, he's asking. Is there some way to do the same thing with less expensive X4300H?
No.
First of all, you can do it with the X6300 because it's got all the amps, and you cannot with the X4300H because it doesn't have enough amps.
Right, yeah. The X4300H has 9 amplifiers built in. You could set that up as 5.2.2 in the theater and then power Zone 2, but I wouldn't recommend that. You definitely want to have 4 overheads if you're going to go doing Atmos.
I gotta be honest, I'm a little hesitant well, I guess I'm a little confused as to why he's worried about having fewer pieces of equipment. I mean, I don't understand what the number of pieces makes that much of a difference. I mean, I think that even if you go with the Denon 6300H, you may find that the noise floor increases because of trying to use all the amps that you end up wanting to buy an external amp anyways. Might just be easier just to go ahead and get the amp now. I mean, they're not that expensive.
Yeah. And those EMP Tek Towers, they can get loud by absorbing a heck of a lot of power. They're not super efficient.
Yeah, they're not,
and they can take a good amount of power. So, I mean, my recommendation to you would be to get the X4300H and then get an external amplifier. Yeah. Which is actually the next question anyway. So.
Yeah, so which amp should he buy? Now, there's a whole lot of them out there. It used to be that we recommended the one that I've got that we don't recommend anymore. What's the one I got? What's the one I have?
Oh, the Dayton?
The Dayton Audio, right.
That was just a 2-channel, though.
It's just 2-channel, and you could literally get two of those or something like that.
Yeah, but they don't make them anymore.
They don't make them anymore.
To a Class D.
The Class D amp, and I'm hesitant to recommend those anymore. You got, of course, Emotiva is a good option if you're looking to spend a whole bunch of money. You could go the monolith route, but I don't think you probably are. Nor will you need to.
No.
I don't think. You just need 2 or 4 channels of amplification to be safe.
Now, since he wants to do the whole Zone 2 thing, so in this instance, the way I would do this, I would get a 5-channel amp because there's plenty of 5-channel amps out there. You could go Emotiva's Bass X 5-channel amp, $500. The one I'm actually going to recommend to you is Outlaw's Model 5000. That's $600, but it has more wattage per channel, right? The Bass X one is 80 watts per channel. The Outlaw is 120 watts per channel. And since those towers are kind of power hungry, and that big center is too, I'm suggesting power your front 3 speakers in your theater with 3 of the channels, and then use the 2 remaining channels to do Zone 2, because the Zone 2 has to be an external amp in this setup. Right. If you're saying I'm using 11 speakers in my theater, because he might go 7.2.4. So if you're going to say I'm going to use 11 speakers in my theater and Zone 2, in that instance, Zone 2 must be externally powered.
Right.
So I'm saying get a 5-channel amp, 120 watts per channel, $600 for that from Outlaw, the Model 5000, and then you can power your front 3, which are the most power hungry, and your Zone 2, and the X4300H can then use 8 out of its 9 amplifiers to power your surrounds, surround backs, and top fronts and top rears.
Yeah.
That'll work out nicely.
He asks, is there an easy way to power an external amp on and off in conjunction with the AV receiver?
Yes.
I mean, most of them have some sort of standby mode, and they just wait for a signal to come in, they turn themselves on.
There's that.
But, I mean, it's just, they are, a lot of them have IR and everything else. You just plug them right into
there's the 12-volt trigger, which is...
There's that too, yeah.
It's a mono 3.5 millimeter jack cable. That's all it is. Right. A mono one. Make sure you get a mono one.
And it comes with it, yeah.
It usually comes with the amp. So the Outlaw 5000, it's got this little 3.5 millimeter jack that's right next to its power switch on the back. And then the X4300 has trigger outs. And you simply say, when I power on my X4300, send a signal from the trigger out, and that'll tell the Outlaw amp to turn on at the same time.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. And it'll turn itself off when you turn the X4300H into standby as well. So
right.
simple.
So the X6300H says it is made in Japan and has monolithic amplifier design. Does that make it clearly better and worth the price increase over the X4300H?
Not when you can use that money to buy the Outlaw.
No, I don't think so, dude. There's not really. I mean, the differences between one to the other. I mean, you're really looking at features here, and yes, they keep it in Japan or whatever, and I don't really know that really makes that. They have more control rather than sending it out to China. I don't really know that it's going to make that much of a difference. It's like, well, this car was assembled in the United States. I'm like, who cares? I don't care where it was assembled. I want to know whether or not it works. And it's going to work. They're both going to work. I don't think that there's any reason for you to spend extra money on the X.
No, I would definitely take the $500 difference in price and put that towards the 5-channel amp. To me, that makes way more sense.
So since he's using the EMP Tek speakers, he wrote RBH and asked them which in-ceiling speakers would be a good match. They suggested the A607s or the A615s. Any reason to choose one over the other, or maybe consider the similar-looking A600 model? And since they're dealer-only, what's the best way to find the best price for those? I did not look at any of these speakers. So
the A607 and the A615 are essentially the same speaker. One of them has just been discontinued and the other one is replacing it.
Yeah, there you go.
So that would be one reason to get one over the other. Which one is available? Yeah. But they're identical in terms of specs and everything. The A600, the difference there. So the 607 and the 615 both have the pivoting tweeter in case you want to aim the tweeter. The 600 is a static tweeter. But
I would go with the 600. I mean, if it's cheaper.
if it saves any money, I'd go with the 600 because you just want to fire straight down. I
was going to say you don't want to aim the tweeter anyways. You want it to go straight down. It's supposed to go straight down. That's the whole idea. So yeah, the 600 would be just fine. Now, how to get the best price? I mean, there is the non-zero chance you'll be able to find these speakers someplace for sale, like directly. They're not supposed to do it.
Yeah, usually you don't get a warranty when you do that.
You won't get any warranties and stuff like that. So call a bunch of dealers. That's what it comes down to.
On RBH's website, they have their dealer locator.
Yeah.
Chances are there's probably only going to be 2 or 3 at most in your area anyway.
If that.
Yeah. If that, exactly. So call them up.
Yeah.
Say, hey, I want to buy 4 of these. How much is that going to cost? If they insist on installing it for you, you can decide whether you want that to be part of the price or not.
Yeah, I would. And if there's no dealers in your area, this is going to sound crazy, but honestly, there are people who have become dealers for speakers because they wanted to buy the speakers and they didn't have anybody to buy speakers from, and they become dealers for them, and then you get them for real cheap. So you get them for the dealer price. So consider that. I suppose. I mean, you don't have to ever actually sell them. You just have to be a licensed dealer. I don't know how much that costs. Might cost something. I don't see why. But want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com. This is AVRant.
Now go out and listen to something.